Call a meeting to order. Special meeting item, consideration awarding a bid and authorizing the town manager to execute a contract for FEMA 21-22 SAM project. The upcoming post-Hurricane Florence FEMA 21-22 project was sent out for bids. 2 bids were received from Great Lakes Dredge and Dock Company and Weeks Marine. The town's engineers, Moffitt and Nichol, have reviewed the bids and recommend the awarding the bid to the lower bidder, Great Lakes and Dock Company LLC, in the amount of $23,471,680, and authorizing the town manager to execute a contract in the amount not to exceed $17,500,000 following review by the town attorney. At this time, turning the meeting over to David Kelly.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. Just so everyone knows, we have on Zoom, we have Sam Morrison and Johnny Martin with Moffitt Nichols, and we have Brian Eads, the town attorney. At this time, we're going to turn it over to Sam to go over the process that came about for awarding the bids, and he can give a brief overview of the project and the dollar amounts. Sam?
Thanks, David, and thank you, Council. Yes, so on August 5th this year, we received bids for the FEMA Phase II Hurricane Florence Nourishment Project. We received, as the mayor said, 2 conforming competitive bids from Great Lakes Dredge and Dock and Weeks Marine. There was 3 specific phases to the project. There was a base bid project, which was a continuation of last year's project that is going to go from 3rd Place East all the way to the parking lot just west of 69th Place West. This is building a new dune along that entire stretch, plus some berm from where the split in Kingsland Drive and West Beach Drive occurs. Along with this, that is where the beach fill goes. Along with this, there is post and rope, trawling, tilling, and a contingency for suspension of work if that happens to occur in the base bid. We also, in the event that we got really competitive, good bids, we added a couple of alternates as a kind of a wish list. There was 2 alternates at alternate 1, which was the eastern end of the project, where it basically put a dune and slope on McGlarmy Street to Barbie Boulevard. It also would add a berm only to Barbie, from Barbie Street to Southeast 69th Street, and then back to a dune and a berm from 69th Street to 61st Street, which connects into where we started the project last year. The add alternate 2 was basically adding additional berm to the base bid project that we're completing this year, which is basically the additional berm would be 400 feet east of 54th Place West, again to the parking lot on 69th Street or Place West. That's additional berm width. So based on the town's budget, and just one comment on the recommendation of the $17,500,000 recommended based on the budget. We did not include dune grass planting this year, so there has been $300,000 set aside or not included in what the budget was to allow for dune grass planting in a separate contract to be let this fall and then be done coinciding with this project. So for the base bid project, Great Lakes bid $16,070,900. And they had a total bid, as the mayor again said, at $23,471,680. Weeks bid $19,735,000, and for the base bid, and $26,825,500 for the total bid. So therefore, Moffitt Nichol is recommending that the town move forward with a contract to award to Great Lakes Dredge and Dock the base bid in the amount of $16,070,900, so $70,900, and then adding 107,000 cubic yards of material under add alternate 2, which will allow us to widen or give additional berm width within the base bid area. Again, that's from 400 feet east of 54th Place West to the parking lot west of 69th Place West. And we'll be able to add that 107,000 anywhere along that stretch based on surveys at the time of the construction. So that's what we're recommending moving forward with.
Thank you, Sam.
I was going to say, David, one more just quick comment about the process is we're asking to give David the authority to sign the award letter, which will send all the contract documents to the contractor, and then they'll have 15 days to sign that and return that to the town for signature.
Thank you, Sam. Mr. Hatton, could you come up and explain where all the funds are coming from?
As you can see and hear from Sam, the total project is $17,500,000. And the funding for this project, we're getting $10,061,294 from FEMA. That's the 75% and the 25%. We have a grant from the state of North Carolina, a tentative grant of $1,344,236. That would leave, to get to the 17.5 with the town's portion, would be $6,094,470. And I plan on getting the town's portion of that $6 million from three funds, the two accommodations fund and the beach tax fund that we have. At the point when we'll need this funding, I've got $6,434,800 in the accommodations, the 3%. Accommodations 2%, I've got $2,086,000. And beach sand fund, I have $669,431, and those total $9,190,963. So I've got adequate funding to pay for this project at this point and not have to take any money borrowings from the general fund, which is what we've always intended. And I want to add on the $10,061,000, the town will not be out that money. That's with a special obligation bond. We'll have that for $10 million. So that will float that money till I get the reimbursement back from FEMA. And I can say on the last one where we did the special obligation bonds, as soon as I sent in for like the first two draws, FEMA turned this money around fastest I've ever seen them. They don't do it normally on any project, but this one, they did. I think I got the right person finally. So that helps quite a bit.
Thank you, Dave. Brian, you have anything to say?
You're muted.
I like that part.
Yeah, you muted.
There you go.
No,
Nope.
Still can't hear you. But you're cute.
it shows him as being not muted.
Get a haircut, Brian. Time you can mute a lawyer, you gotta get
Yeah.
it going.
I like the way he parts his hair.
Yeah, we know you can hear
No,
us.
you can hear us. We can't hear you.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
No, we cannot hear you.
If you can hear us, I think he's working on it.
While he's working on that, any questions from council for Sam or Mr. Hatton?
I have a question, Mr. Crowley. Actually, I want to start by thanking Mr. Hatton for detailing the funds which we will be contributing. I think what I would ask is that as we look at the current FEMA project, we share that information with the public completely. I've run into quite a few people recently as a result of other activities, and a number of them are under the illusion this is all state and federal money, whereas in fact our taxpayers are contributing on a regular basis. So seeing that in whole, I think would be helpful, so that people know we're matching our share in each and every step of these projects. And so this particular sheet you gave us is very helpful. I think we should post that kind of information so we know.
Yes. And Mike has started bringing up this page for the upcoming project. We got the mapping and everything from Moffett Nickel the other day. So it'll be just like we had on the last project where we showed work in progress and everything going forward. But we will show the financial part from the last storm and this storm.
Is council, is he able to speak? Brian, can you speak?
No.
No. I have a question for Brian.
So I have one question, Mr. Mayor. How did we determine, the base was 16 million, so how did we determine to spend to go to alternate 2 versus say alternate 1? I think that would be Mr. Morrison. Can you hear me, Mr. Morrison?
Yeah, I'm gonna pass that to Johnny. He's probably best to answer that.
Sure. So, yeah, we had some discussions with the town, with David, of course, and we just also went and looked at historical erosion rates. And of course, you know, the West End has historically had more issues with the AIWW project that was completed about a year ago. They did not get as far east, I guess, as we would have hoped. So we know that also upcoming, the eastern part of town usually gets sand when we do have the Wilmington Harbor deepening. So in kind of weighing all those different factors, it was decided that if we had extra funds above the base, that it would be best to put those toward the west end.
Thank you.
And it's better to do the extra when they're already on the project, correct? That was the reason for the extra?
Yes, ma'am. We always try to, when we bid these projects, put more work than what we have budget for in hopes that, you know, it'll help get us a little better bids. So, and yes, so we always want to do or put out more than what we think the budget is in hopes that we can do a little bit more while they're here. So that's exactly right.
Thank you.
Mr. Martin, one question. When we start this project, is there any way to start on the west end and work back the other way?
Yeah, we can try.
I think, Sam, maybe you want to jump on that one first and I'll add in.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. We can request that from the contractor, although they've set up a schedule already based on the contract going from east to west. But because this is a hopper dredge, not a hydraulic, which we primarily saw last year, it should allow them the flexibility to start at either end without additional cost. But we'd have to go back to the contractor because that would be a change in the order of work in the contract, just to make sure that they wouldn't have a problem if the town sees a need in going that direction.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is since the add alternate is always, you know, sort of extra work and we want to be sure that we complete the base. The other reason we had it set up east to west is that we knew any of the extra work that we might have the budget for would be on the west end. So we thought it would be better to end the project there just in case if some unforeseen things happened and all of a sudden, you know, we weren't able to do as much of the add alternate as we wanted to do. So that was another reason that we sort of did it east to west. And what we wouldn't want to happen is start west, build the add alternate, and then something happened and we couldn't tie the two areas together. So that was just another reason for us to, in the bid package, to place it from east to west. But as Sam said, we can adjust that if the council's direction is to do so.
Provided that they do not result in increased mobilization costs, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
While we're on the subject, and I'm sorry Brian is muted, well, perhaps not, no. This is the low bidder. This is the same bidder that we encountered difficulties with before. What provisions are in place to ensure that we don't have any additional problems this time? from your point of view? I guess the engineering point of view and then the legal point of view.
Well, there's two things that we've done this year. One is we've increased or shortened the time that they have allowed to do the project. The required completion date this year is now March 31st, as opposed to April 30th. So liquidated damages do kick in on April 1st this year. And the second thing is we did increase the liquidated damages from 4,000 to 5,000. So there is more of a penalty if they do delay. The second thing from less a legal standpoint, but from more of an engineering standpoint, is that the contractor does plan on bringing hopper dredges this year, which are more schedule certain than a hydraulic dredge. Hydraulic dredge is more susceptible to adverse weather and breakdowns and other things like that. So the hopper dredges that they're bringing should be more schedule certain.
So, not to belabor this point, but just to put a fine point on it, it wasn't an equipment issue which caused this contractor to delay our project. It was a management issue to work another job in front of our job that pushed us into delay, correct? So I want an assurance that these folks understand this is important to us. There's a lot of money here. This is our contract, and they're going to deliver for us. Is that something that's occurred in this conversation with them?
Absolutely. That's been going on since the day the bids were turned in. And we've absolutely had this conversation. And I will say that last year it was a management decision, absolutely. But then also once on the project, there was a number of delays that were unforeseen on their part. And we wouldn't have expected necessarily to see them, some difficulties they had. That's why it extended so far. But yes, those conversations absolutely have been taking place with the contractor.
And Brian, just shake your head. Are you satisfied with the indemnity clauses that we have built into this contract, given the experience we had last year?
Yes, and I changed computers. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, I apologize about that. Yes, I'm comfortable. There was also other projects that interfered with the timing that the contractor arrived last year. I don't think we need to rehash all that unless you want to. I think this year's a totally different scenario. We've all learned some lessons from last year. Thankfully, they came through at the end. But I feel like we have additional safeguards in place, as Sam just identified. And Johnny or Sam, if you want to add to that.
Are we obligated to take the low bidder?
You're not. It's the lowest responsive bidder. No, you're just because you're the lowest bidder legally doesn't mean if you're going to award the contract, it goes to the lowest bidder. They have to be it has to be a responsive bid.
And it is a responsive bid.
Right.
It's just the history is a bit troubling, but you're saying you're satisfied we have the protections in place.
Yes, and they're a reputable company. There were some. I think there's a little over ambition. I can't speak for their work model last year, but I know they had the other project going on. I'm comfortable this year will be different, and we have safeguards in place if we run into complications and delays attributable to the contractor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to see if we could get some consensus on, from the council on starting from the west end and moving back the other way, if possible.
What's the rationale, Scotty?
The rationale is the amount of erosion and
Greater need.
continual erosion that's occurring down there, and the folks could be in trouble here pretty soon. So
Oh, that's the area of greater need, that's the argument?
that's the argument, exactly.
I can support that as long as we're not going to incur
Additional.
massive mobilization costs here, because apparently the contractor's got a schedule. I know you're saying probably not, but with these guys, I want to see it in writing that, in fact, they can start at the west end. But that said, yes, I'll support that.
Okay, Sheila? Okay. I
Yeah,
think we have consensus, Mayor,
consensus on, but without it changing the cost
significantly, yes.
significantly.
Can we put a percentage on significantly?
10%.
Well, I tell you what, that'll be contract negotiations. I don't think it's advisable to talk about that. For the obvious reasons.
You asked for a percentage, I gave it to you. You want to strike the record? That's okay, too.
No. I'm just saying, hopefully they'll be able to do it without any additional cost, but I'd hate to have to reconvene.
That would be the goal, Counselor, but I think, well, I will suggest 10% would be tolerable, and I'm looking for agreement from my colleagues.
I believe 10% be excessive, for looking at the amount of money.
We'll see if they can come back with something and let us know. That would be, I guess, the easiest way to proceed on that.
The question to the council, I mean, when you say the 10%, is that just on the mobilization or the overall contract value? That's what, so.
Correct.
It would have to be for just the alternate two portion of it, right? Not the overall contract, not the overall 17.5.
No, I was speaking just to mobilization.
Yeah, just mobilization only.
That's from my perspective, yeah.
I got it, yeah.
I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
And just for clarification, that would be over and above the 17.5 million. So in looking at Great Lakes price for mobilization, it's 5.4 million. So are we saying that if they come back within 540,000 additional to the 17.5, that it would be acceptable?
That's what the math suggests, if there's a consensus of council on the 10% with respect to the mobilization.
Sorry, Brian, can I intercede one more thing? Just a comment before the decision's made is the contractor, based on their schedule, the difference in time is about a month and a half of getting the material on the west end if they start on the east end versus starting on the west end.
So we're looking at possibly increasing the time past April the 30th to come from the west end back to the east.
No, sorry. If they start around February 1st, they would be to the west on the east end. They would be to the west end mid-March. But vice versa, if you started on the west end, obviously it'd be around February 1st and you'd get to the east end around mid-March. So I'm just saying you're only getting protection on that section a month and a half, maybe, 6-7 weeks earlier than if you were to do it the way the contract's laid out now.
From what I've seen down there, they could be in significant trouble by that time. So if you could just check and see and get back with David and he'll get back with us and see if it's possible.
And my recommendation, not that anyone has asked for it yet, is to award the contract to the lowest bidder. Instruct staff. I think we have our directive as to exploring starting on the west end. And then if we have to come back for a change order or something like that, we can. But I believe their bid bond expires Monday, the 4th. So we need to go ahead and award the contract and then negotiate that detail.
Sounds good.
I agree.
Thank you, sir.
I think that's the proper approach, and I agree with Councilman Scott that there's greater urgency on the west end. I think 10% that I suggested is probably too much. Let's negotiate and see what the very best they can do, and hopefully they can adjust their schedule because they really want this contract and they want to make amends for last year, and there's no added cost to us. Let's see what they come up with.
David, any other speakers?
No, sir. That's all we have for you this morning.
All right. That said, and there is urgency. We do this now. There is time for further negotiations. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll be glad to make the motion. I make a motion to award the bid for the post-Hurricane Florence FEMA 2021-2022 project to Great Lakes Dredge and Dock Company LLC in the amount of $23,471,680 and authorize the town manager to execute a contract in the amount not to exceed $17,500,000 following review by the town attorney.
Thank you. We have a second. Scott, all in favor?
Mr. Mayor, point of order. Council, do we need to add a rider to this that we are requesting the contractee to begin at a different point and to give us, or can we just simply approve the contract and then begin to discuss with them changes that we would prefer?
As I understand the motion, Councilman Bach, it's the final form of contract subject to town attorney review and approval. That gives me the latitude to try to negotiate that, starting at the west and moving east.
Fair enough.
I don't think
Fair
we
enough.
need a codicil.
I wanted to make sure we didn't lose Councilman Scott's point. Fair enough. So council to negotiate. With that said, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I think you have a second. Call the vote, please.
All in favor? That's everybody. With that being done, I appreciate everybody being here. Would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
All in favor? Everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam, Johnny, Brian.
Thanks.
Thank you.